episode 149, and I am flying high this week. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe the Blue Jays are headed for the World Series for the first time in 32 years?
Crazy, isn't it? Thank goodness. How long have you fans been waiting for it? And we bandwagon jumpers get so excited and think maybe this is going to be the year. Well,
Yep.
Maybe this is going to be the year.
Yeah, it was too bad for Seattle. I mean, it had to be one of us, and we all came into the league together. But if it had to be somebody, I'm glad it's us. I'm just so worried about Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a unicorn and a phenom, and every possible word you can put on him. Can the Jays get past Ohtani?
Well, they're going to have to try. That's
Yes.
just it. And this will really test them. I mean, I know he's just incredible. He's like when Gretzky first came into the hockey league. Sorry, I brought up Gretzky, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Just smashing records all over the place. He's history in the making. We'll see. So she's Lisa Brandt.
She's Erin Davis, and this is Gracefully and Frankly. And how are you doing?
Really well. Home now. Just flew in yesterday, and the puppies were so happy to see us. But oh my gosh, what a trip to Ontario in the latter part of October. And the leaves, holy doodle, they really showed up for us. So it was picture perfect, the whole thing. And of course, being with you for Thanksgiving weekend was the icing on the cake. 2 cakes.
Right, 2 cakes and then another cake with the littles for their celebrated belated birthdays, the Blue Jays cake. And yeah, it was wonderful to have you here. And the timing couldn't have been better because the colors were a little bit late this year. So yeah, you got to see them. That's good.
Yeah, I saw Colin Jost say on Saturday Night Live last weekend that experts said it was going to be an extra short leaf peeping season or, season for the leaves. But I guess it appears that so much of our country is getting rewarded for the smoky summer in just the absolute coat of many colors of Mother Nature. But, it was tremendous, tremendous time. And last weekend, Sunday, my God, it was 28 degrees in Ottawa, at least the thermometer in the car. So, but speaking of colors, you should see the bruise on my arm and the grass stains on my pants from playing baseball with Colin and fielding his hits. So glad that Sierra Sil is in the family because I'm not in pain this week.
Sierra Sil is in my entire family now, by the way. We are giving it to Cuddles.
Oh, your cat.
Well, this was actually Rob's idea, and I don't know why I didn't think of it. I mean, I know Sierra Sil works. I take it. Derek takes it. But Cuddles has trouble crouching because he has arthritis in his back end. And I was telling Rob, and you already knew about Cuddles.
The Pooh Chronicles. I keep up on all of that.
Yes, the Pooh Chronicles. Cuddles has been going on the carpet because he doesn't have to crouch as far as he does in the box. Anyway, if you've ever had a kid or a pet, that's not gross to you, I hope. So he'd been doing that, and I've got a steamer and all those things, keeping the place clean. And Rob said, why not give him some Sierra Sil and see what happens? Wouldn't you know it, the next morning, after having it the first time, the next morning, he went in the box. The next 4 days he went in the box. Once on the carpet, back to the box for another 4 or 5 days. It's incredible. And he's more affectionate. He's not as skittish because he's not in pain. You can tell he's not in pain. I couldn't have predicted this. It's what's happening. We are so thrilled.
Well, this is what we did with our elderly dogs, too. And of course, Sierra Sil has leaps and bounds pet chews for dogs. But yeah, it's just minerals. There is nothing in it that can hurt your animals or your spouse or yourself. Check it all out at sierrasil.com. And remember, with the code GF, you get 14% off because they promise you'll see a difference in 14 days. But with Cuddles, it was much faster. What a happy story that is.
It was amazing. We were just gobsmacked and so happy about it.
Yeah. You know what I was happy about was driving from my former radio partner, Mike Cooper's, to Ottawa and listening to a podcast with my friend Lisa Brandt and a fellow called Toronto Mike who talks radio and music and just does a tremendous podcast at torontomike.com. And just listening to your stories. And I cannot believe that after knowing you for probably the best part of 20 years, I learned stuff about you, Lisa Brandt.
Did you? What
Yes.
did you learn? What did you learn?
Well, I learned that when you were ready to throw your hands up and get out of radio, you went to school for something completely in a different lane.
Oh, right. Well, when I left my talk show in Hamilton, I got a little bit of a buyout, and I thought, okay, now's the time to think about what I really want to do, if it's still radio. And I chose between funeral director and private investigator. Now, in hindsight, neither one of them would have worked, Aaron, because I had a mortgage. I was a grown-up, and you have to apprentice, and, you can't just go and do these things. But I took some courses at Mohawk College in Hamilton toward becoming a private detective. And it was mostly on conducting online searches, on surveillance and stuff like that. And it was really fun.
How long did you study that?
Oh, 2 courses, I don't know, some months, weekly type of thing. It was going to be a part-time course to get this done. If I didn't know which way my career was going to go, would anybody want me back in radio?
Right.
You know what's really funny is once you're available, people do want you back because they have all sorts of weird part-time things they want you to do or whatever. I worked part-time for a company where I did voice tracking in the early days of voice tracking.
Yeah.
So I had a bunch of part-time jobs for a while until I got the call to come and do morning news on CHFI. And it's like, well, I'm not turning that down, so I'm going back.
Yeah, I'm not dead yet. No, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me, did the detective education you got, has it come in handy in real life? Like when you're looking up people you think may not be on the up and up, is this a scam? Did you learn things that you didn't know already? And have you used it?
Let me put it this way. When somebody wants to find somebody that they can't find or a thing that might be kind of rare but maybe on the internet, they ask me to do it. So I did learn things that I use. I mean, things have obviously changed since then, but the same principles apply when you're searching to be very specific and do some research about the website if you do find the thing. A lot of places will say they have information, and then you get there and they don't.
Yeah.
It's just this hooky thing to get you to visit. But yeah, I do use it. And some of the surveillance stuff was fascinating too. I mean, it's boring. A lot of it's boring. You're sitting there for 3 hours waiting for someone to come out of a motel,
Yes. One of the few things I know about really suspecting somebody on my website, on my Facebook page, which we'll talk about later, they are so infuriating right now, this Facebook thing I'm going through, is if somebody has 2 first names, they're usually a scammer. But you have a different last name than the one that you were born with or married into. And a lot of people have been commenting who listened to the Toronto Mike episode, like, who are you even?
I know, and he's brought it up in subsequent episodes, too. I've had this last name, Brandt, longer than I had my maiden name or any of my married names. In 1982, Aaron, is when I selected it because of an incident with a bunch of guys in the lobby of my apartment building.
Ooh.
Very drunk, very intimidating, looking for me and my roommate.
Ooh.
And I just decided as a woman, it was probably a good idea to camouflage myself a little bit. And it's not unprecedented. Loads of people do it.
Oh, gosh, yes. Almost, well, I would say easily 50% now, and probably it used to be 75% of radio personalities either had a name chosen for them or they chose another name.
And chosen for them is a very good point, too. Vendetta, Derringer, none of those names are real.
Right.
They were all meant to fit in with the attitude of the radio station.
Bob McGee chose that name because McGee was the name of a secondary school in a market he was trying to break into. And, of course, the song, Me and Bobby McGee, he's a former radio partner of mine for people who don't know, automatically he had name recognition. But anyway, go on. You chose Brandt, DT, at the end.
Oh, yeah, that has plagued me ever since. It either gets spelled wrong or I've had people say, oh, you're Lisa Brandt. But I thought I was being whimsical by putting a D in there. It worked to keep my personal life separate. And somebody could stalk me, chase me, harass me. All those things have happened.
Ooh.
But they never knew where I lived.
Wow.
And If I went into a bank, I was the other person. And like I say, that name has changed 4 times.
Right.
So Brant is the one I've had the longest. And that's how I introduce myself. It's how people know me.
That's all I ever call you because I've never known you by Lisa Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. And I really can't blame you for dropping that.
Right. It was really a mouthful. So it's not false pretenses. It's nothing like that. It was just, I'm so comfortable with it. It's how people know me. It is real as far as I'm concerned. It's not that I'm hiding behind a fake name. Why does anybody need to know the name I use when I go to the bank?
Right.
They don't. Now, I wasn't born with a radio perfect name like Aaron Davis. So, some people are. There are other people who don't. I mean, my maiden name is like hitting a brick wall with your fist. It's not a user-friendly name.
Yeah. You're not defending yourself here. You know that, right?
I kind of feel like I am in a way because I've had a few people ask me, well, is Lisa even your name?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And I think they might be joking, but it is.
Yes, yes, yes.
It is my name. But that's why I did it.
Now, let me tell you, I was really surprised, Lisa Brandt, if that's your real name, which it is, because that's a joke we use all the time in radio. Okay, Sandy Hoyt, if that's your real name. I was really surprised to hear about the funeral director thing. And the reason is because you are such a sensitive soul who hates to see suffering and who is more surrounded by suffering, people at the worst moment of their life, than a funeral director. How would you have managed that?
Well, I think it's funny because when I'm in a situation where there's trauma or something needs doing, I'm really good. I would have made a good paramedic if I had any medical knowledge because in the moment, I can just focus on the task at hand. I don't panic and just do it. And I think that when people are in need of some sort of sympathy and empathy, I think I'd be really good at that, not knowing the person who has passed away. I would feel for them, but I wouldn't fall into the same feeling as they have. That was my thinking about it. Plus, the whole aspect around death and the different funerals and all that kind of stuff and how people do things around. I just found it fascinating. 6 Feet Under was very big at the time, too.
Oh, right. Of course it was.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad I didn't do it, Erin, because it probably would have been hard on me and it probably would have not have been a good thing. And the other thing is, I would have made a nickel a year for the first few years because you usually start this when you're young.
Yes.
And so it wasn't realistic anyway.
Rob had a very good friend. He's still a friend who was a funeral director for a time. And the toll it took on him was just astronomical. So personally, I'm glad you didn't. And we're grateful for the people who do and who are so good at it. I often think that the job or the calling of death doula is an interesting one. We know what a doula is. It's usually someone who's not quite a midwife, but helps to aid in the birthing process and to prepare the mother to be. I don't know enough about it to speak of it with any kind of authority, but a death doula to help someone to transition to the next stage. I don't know. I think that's a beautiful calling too.
I do as well. In fact, any kind of work at a hospice,
yes,
I find fascinating, and knowing how, from the other end, being a family member of someone who's been in hospice and seeing just how amazing it is for them, the attention and the attentiveness and everything they do, makes me almost want to get involved in something that way as well. And actually, I talked to a local hospice that just opened up, and they've been looking for some volunteers. They wanted someone in reception, which isn't something I'm going to be very good at. But
with that voice, come on.
Well, I just feel like I would send somebody to the wrong room, or I don't know. It's not something I want to do.
What rooms are there? Go to heaven or go to hell. And as a receptionist, you never want to say the latter. No, I understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. Death doula does sound fascinating. I mean, people need some love and calm and someone to help guide them and maybe answer some questions or just sit with them. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Something I've done with friends who were ill or about to pass away. One of them, I I went to her bedside and I did her nails. She wanted her nails done. And then there was another friend, and I think you were with me at the time, and I just massaged her feet with cream. It's just the smallest things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did her hands while you did her feet. Yeah, I remember that. And she just, her eyes closed, and she just looked so relaxed and so happy just to be touched and to be handled with love. It was quite a moment.
You want to hear something silly while we're talking about the road not taken? When I got hired back at CHFI 20 years ago, I was so happy, so grateful. I wanted to train to learn to give pedicures to women especially, but men also, who were undergoing chemo. And a couple of people told me, no, you know what, that's not a thing. But I just wanted to be there making them feel better while they're on their cancer journey. I wonder if that's even a thing. I don't even know.
I haven't seen anybody. I went to chemo appointments with my mom, and I didn't see anybody doing anything like that. But I do remember that time, and I remember thinking of it as your foot thing, because I remember you talking about it.
Yeah.
But you made a really good point. You made very good points about it, is that it's the ultimate in service to other people. And Jesus washed people's feet, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think it's a thing. Maybe you could make it a thing. Or are you past it now? Yeah.
Well, I'd probably end up giving somebody an infection or something, too. So you got to be so careful. Listen, we need to lighten up the mood a little bit here.
Well, I was going to ask how you would transport your little fish to nip at their heels, but okay, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. They have those little fish at spas that will nibble at your feet and give you a pedicure. Geez, why do I spend so much money on pedicures when all I have to do is buy a fishbowl? You know, this is not at all where we expected episode 149 to go today. I mean, we always have a lineup, and this is a neat article, or this is something we should talk about, and we can always shelve it for next week. But this is the thing, too, Lisa, about you and me and partnerships and the ease of a good partnership. And you got to talk with Toronto Mike. Here I am piggybacking on his podcast again. But you got to talk with him about partnerships in radio, and it seems like everybody wants you to spill the beans, the tea, whatever you happen to be serving up that day, and you just won't. And in terms of names, I think that that's really respectable, because people, I find in general, don't want to know really how the sausage is made at the end of the day or at the start of the day if you're doing mornings.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because there are a couple people I would love to call out and just say, you're absolute jerks.
Yeah.
But who wouldn't? I mean, somebody probably has my name on their list for that, for whatever reason. Like, who knows? And I think that's part of it. Partly I want to give people some grace for maybe having a bad day or a bad year or whatever. And the other part is I don't want to start a war. And I said that in those words. There's one guy he was trying to get me to name, and I just wasn't going to do it because it's just not worth the hassle and the stress, and it's just not worth it.
I find it interesting that all of these years after you worked with him in Hamilton, that he still has that kind of power to start a war.
Well, it's not even power. He's just that kind of guy. I remember having a discussion with him one time. Do you remember the Mike Harris protests?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they would shut down a whole city and on and on and on. And I remember talking about it on air one day on my talk show about how taking away our city services from us isn't going to buy you any sympathy or empathy. It's just not the way to go about it. And this guy sent me like a 10-page email on the history of protests and why we are allowed to protest. And that was sort of his view. I was looking at a micro view of a protest, and he took it like, whoa, you're against protests, and that's just not democratic. And that's just the kind of person we're talking about here. So if I said one little thing was bad, he would go, well, I'm a good person because I do this, that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, but you did that, you know?
Yeah.
And who wants that kind of, I don't know. I just don't want him in my life, and I don't want to talk to him, and I don't want to hear from him.
Let them, right?
Yeah.
And I also think, too, that the people who listened to you or to me, to anybody in situations where there wasn't great chemistry or there was acrimony even, They don't want to know. It's like when we found out that Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin couldn't stand each other. It's like, no, don't tell us that.
That's a very good point. And yet, when you and Mike are together and that genuine love for each other shows through, there is nothing better. There's nothing better because it is genuine.
Yeah, you wrote a book called Celebrity Tantrums. And so you've got a little more insight into this than I think most regular people. But, finding out that Johnny Carson was not a nice man after cameras and lights were turned off. And Betty White hated animals. She just... No, she did not.
Stop that.
But were there any other partnerships that you know of that just, we see the marriages that fall apart with, Keith and Nicole and that sort of thing, but where we prefer to kind of see them as happy together and we don't want to know the story behind the scenes?
I didn't realize until I was a fully grown adult and the show was long over that Sonny and Cher were divorced when they did a good number of their shows. And we didn't have 24/7 news online in your face all the time,
right.
So I had no idea. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, well, sometimes we just don't want to know. What I'd like to know is why Meta, which is Zuckerberg and Facebook, is just on my last nerve, Lisa. I've been having these viewing parties for the Blue Jays and will continue to have them for the World Series. But Meta has been limiting how many times I can do likes or anything with 24,000 followers. I don't understand it. And I keep writing to them, why is this? Why are we wrong? It's just not working. And I don't understand it. And it seems like a lot of people are going through this.
Yeah, it's a sign of popularity. It's a sign of your popularity because they track, it's true. They track how many times you like or comment or put some sort of reaction onto people's comments. And we try to like everything on the Gracefully and Frankly page to show that we saw it and that it's appreciated.
Right.
And I know that's how you operate. But they penalize you for that because they figure, well, that can't be a real human. They've got some sort of limiter or algorithm or something that tells them, this one's happening too much. It must be a bot or it must be a bad actor or it must be something. And so we've got to limit it. And that's unfortunately what's happening to you. You're too popular.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. You would think you would be rewarded for encouraging engagement and for people to visit your page, but it's really not fair.
No. Okay, well, thank you for talking me off the ledge here, but I just have to put up with it. These are not real problems. The people who have real problems are security at the Louvre. Can you believe the French crown jewels are gone and you just know we're not going to be finding those again ever?
So why steal them? Why steal them if you can't? There must be a black market somewhere for stolen jewelry or something where some billionaire collector will have it and they'll never find out. Because otherwise, why do it if you can't turn around and sell them?
I have the answer to that. And while I would like to, like you, picture Elon Musk tenting his fingers like a steeple and going, bring me the French crown jewels, what it is they will cut the jewels. They'll recut them so that they can be sold more anonymously because
that makes sense.
Yeah. If you know that so-and-so, the king of whatever, had that particular, say, ruby, and it's famous among gemologists, you're going to recut it so that it can be sold and worn by a Kardashian or something, who even knows. But what they did was they went through the Louvre through a top window using a cherry picker, which you kind of think would garner a little bit of attention.
You think?
Yeah, but the museum has been understaffed, and they even had a walkout this past summer. And so maybe you always think it's an inside job, right? But they used a cherry picker on a high window. Now, I wonder, Lisa, if somebody thought, well, these windows are so high, we don't need alarms on them. Who's going to get in from the top?
Wow. A cherry picker. I've been by the Louvre. I mean,
yeah.
How could you possibly have a cherry picker there and nobody noticed? Is there a lot of construction going on? Is there something happening?
No idea at all, but it's mind-boggling. And they took off on mopeds. This is going to be a movie or a documentary. You just know it.
Well, that's the other thing. If you're in France or in Italy or anywhere else and there's a group of mopeds, they're everywhere. They could get lost so easily.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of planning. Good on you, thieves.
And did they come down like on a spider web kind of thing or in a harness like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and what about all those lasers they have to evade? Surely there were lasers.
Oh, there have to be lasers. Oh, geez. But what a story that was. Holy. And the No Kings protests all around the world on Saturday. Unbelievable. These are unprecedented times. And these unprecedented times, of course, usually make it into publications like Time magazine. But guess who else did?
Envy Pillow. Yeah, in a Platform for Life section. It's the pillow to do it all while you sleep.
Amazing.
It offers deep hydration, it boosts collagen, kills acne, prevents sleep wrinkles, aligns your spine, which is my most important thing. And I get all these other things as a bonus. And there are no toxic foams or synthetics. It's all sustainable and all made in Canada.
Yeah, and they guarantee you're going to love it, or they will give you your money back and clean and donate the pillow to a women's shelter. Find out more. Oh, and if you check out their sheets in Queen and King and you choose their sheets before Christmas, you'll get 15% off using the code GF or 10% off everything else at Envy Pillow, ENVY pillow.com. And from Kathy and Kim, the apples of our eyes, to this week's edition of Totally Stupid or Twits. Well, the season for apples is almost over. And for some apple growers, it can't come fast enough because they are tired of thieves. Not the apple dumpling gang, but the apple thieves.
People are stealing apples?
Yes, they're taking them by the bags full to their cars without paying. They're loading up a wagon is filled with baby stuff. You got a blanket, you got your diaper bag and the baby. And then they're putting apples in there and covering them with the blanket and stealing apples that way. So some apple growers were not allowing backpacks or shopping bags or diaper bags to try and curb theft. Wow.
That's crazy. So instead of pick your own, they're just taking their own.
Yeah, pickpocket your own. There are people who are leaving with pumpkins in their pants.
Oh,
that's a zucchini, sir.
Yes.
And they're just stealing stuff. And the profit margin for these farmers, growers is just so thin that when you've got people stealing like that, you're taking food from their table, quite literally. Yeah. It's just... Yeah. What is it? Do they think that they grow on trees? No, that's bad. Do they think, that it doesn't matter because they're on the ground or whatever? I just don't understand it, Lisa.
I saw a guy pull over one time and take corn from a farmer's field and throw it in the back of his truck. It's it's not right. Apple pickers, pay for your picking apples, for goodness sake.
Absolutely. It's not just one bad apple. It's everybody who's doing it. And you are this week's Twits.
One bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, girl.
All right. Well, now that we've got you thinking about the Osmonds, because why not think about the Osmonds? Off we go into this weekend. Oh, and I got to tell you, one of our favorite shows from last season on Netflix, Nobody Wants This, with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, it's back today, Thursday, on Netflix. So yay.
Yay. Can't wait to see that. And the new season of Diplomat is up, and there's a lot of great stuff to watch.
Yes, there sure is. Whether you're watching sports or not, there's always something else. So have a great weekend. It's good to be home to the puppies, and it was wonderful to see you, Lisa. So next time we meet up, I think it's going to be in Mexico in January.
I believe it will.
But in the meantime, we'll talk to you here next week for our sesquicentennial episode 150. And thanks again for the 200,000 downloads and for supporting us at gracefullyandfrankly.com. Whether you're looking at jewelry or at T-shirts or at Lisa's, all 3 novels in the Felicity and Mitzi series are now there for you to enjoy as the weather gets cooler and she gets hotter. Menopause. Okay.
That's not a hot flash. I'm just happy to see you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.